Well, hello and welcome everybody. My name is Steven Sim, and together with me is a very experienced teacher and my treasured colleague. She co-writes a curriculum for secondary school and she also writes a primary school curriculum as well. That's Mrs. Shum. Okay, so hello, Mrs. Shum. How are you?
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today.
Okay, so without further ado, let's get started, shall we? Um, hey, where were we? So we were talking about sharing. Okay, so Mrs. Shum, what do you think the some of the students who receive the O-level results tomorrow will say when they look at their results slip? I mean, you have been teaching for many years, right? And we have guided students. We were there for students when we passed them the result slip, and some of them celebrated and laughed, and some of them cried, and some of them felt very happy and thankful. So, what do you think some of them will say tomorrow, beginning with the phrase, I wish that I had?
That's one of the responses. Typically, there are three kinds. Regardless of the results, many of them will text to thank. Some of them will apologize. Is that for you as well, Stephen? But I always tell them, what is done cannot be undone, lah. And it's true. Many of them have the regret that they should have perhaps memorized more useful phrases, taken into account our naggings about working for comprehension questions, and also perhaps taking heed when we took them through all the different genres of writing, as well as the different question types. So what about
Yeah,
you and your students?
yeah, I think some of my students they don't say immediately because sometimes I mean they are very happy. They of course they'll come and say thank you very much, and then they jump excitedly up and down. You can just imagine what they're going to do tomorrow, right? When the O-level results are announced. But some of them are very quiet, and so those are the ones I worry about. So normally, maybe 1 or 2 weeks later, I message them and find out how they are doing, and they'll say things like, "I wish that I had started studying earlier. I wish that I had worked harder. I wish that I had started I wish that I had not been so playful. I wish that I had not spent so much time hooked to my phone playing games. So those are some of the things which we can, it happens every year. It happens every year. And you have a whole range of students with a whole range of results. So, I mean, my hope is that tonight when we share with you what and how we design this program for Sec 3 and Sec 4, the secondary English program for Mindstretcher, we hope that you will bring back something that is useful that can be applied. There's no point just listening and then say, okay, that's it, I go to sleep. Whether you're a parent or whether you're a student, right? So we welcome all of you here. And the important thing is to bring back one or two things that you realize and then you make a change in your life so that this time next year, okay, so this time next year, you can choose which of these types of students you are. Okay. I think when it comes to results, as long as you are trying your best, you find that the teachers are all very happy. As long as you're trying your best, whether it's teachers at Mindstretcher, whether it's your teachers in school, as long as you are trying your best. So it's important that you make a strong start. So don't say, oh, I'll wait until March where for the first weighted assessment. Then when the results come, then they finish marking it in 3 weeks' time. Then you say, oh, my results are not so good now. That is the time when I need to start studying. That kind of inertia because we have seen this happening. I've seen this happening for many years, teaching at junior college, teaching at a secondary school, teaching at Mind Stretcher, and also Mrs. Shum teaching at, what is it, Nanyang Girls. I mean, you've seen all the students, whether it's IT schools, whether it's mainstream schools, for students, there are two things, right? Whether they are hardworking or lazy, or whether they have the IQ. And IQ means basically they learn faster. So some students they think that since my IQ is so high, I can study last minute. But what would you say, Mrs. Shum, for an IT student who says, I'll just study last minute? What do you think,
At,
Mrs.
at,
Shum?
at this point, I also wanted to interject. Let's look at the top picture of this portfolio, the previous page. That's Patrick, right? Patrick said, yes, I taught him in Sec 4.
Philip,
You taught him in
Philip,
Sec 3. Philip,
yeah,
yes, Philip.
yeah,
And when we
yeah,
talk about diligence, we have many kinds of students, and this boy in particular is one of the most diligent I've seen. He actually traveled from Bukit Panjang, where his school and his home is, all the way to Bishan to join us for evening lessons, right, Stephen? 7:30
yeah.
lessons. And never once did he make excuses like, oh, I think he's an AEP student, art elective. So never once did he say things like, oh, I'm so tired from traveling. Can I not write an essay? No, he will always complete his work, whether he comes in late or on time. He will finish his assignments, do extra on top of that, and let us review his prelims and his WA paper. So this is the kind of rigor that is required to get eventually 9A1s, which he did. He's now doing medicine in Australia. His dad just texted me.
He I taught him starting from primary 4 or 5 actually. And so one of the things which we did, and when he was just a young boy, his vocab wasn't very good. He was very hardworking, but his vocab wasn't very good. So I say, okay, let's do this the old-fashioned way. Every week, right? Every week, I want you to show me your exercise book. So he just has an exercise book. And I said, every day you just write down 5 words and then the meanings of the words, and then you construct a sentence. So every week he would show me that exercise book. He would come early, like 10 minutes before class, and I'll take a quick look, and then I would give him a quick quiz, pop quiz on the spot. And he did this consistently. Can you imagine? 5 words every day for 50 weeks. But and then that's from primary 4, primary 5, primary 6, and then he goes on and on all the way until he went to junior college. So that's the system which we have. If the student is willing to play their part, and that's also very important. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So as students, you need to play your role, and as parents, you need to encourage your children to do these things. You need to reinforce the message, because as teachers, that 2 hour exposure which we have in class, we will reinforce, we will tell them certain things. We will tell them, hey, this is what you're doing wrongly, and this is the correct thing. Now, go and do this for the rest of the week, because that once a week when you meet us, it's very intense. That's the tip of the iceberg. That's where we spend time going through the things which we mark to tell you, hey, this is what you did wrong and this is what you did correctly. Now go back and try again, learn. And so the students who take this seriously, who actually cooperate and who play their part, they actually improve for sure. Definitely, they improve. So the first thing I want to tell you when it comes to having mastery, or achieving this mastery of the English language, is that there needs to be critical listening and viewing. So, we are used to thinking of English language as being grammar, vocabulary, and things like that. But at the secondary school level, you find that the higher order thinking skills are interwoven with language, because language is how we think. we express our thoughts through language. Nowadays, in AI, and then slash LLM. Currently, our AI is based on LLM. Of course, maybe in the future they have those based on visuals, but right now it's LLM, meaning large language models. Oh, how did these AIs achieve their amazing powers of being able to write essays on the students' behalf if the students choose to cheat? What did they do? They fed them with lots and lots and lots of text and lots and lots and lots of model essays. And then the AI said, hey, so this is how people actually write good essays. So this is the brute force method which the computer programmers did. Now, what about you as a student? As a student, what happens is that the test, the comprehension test is designed, you can't use AI during the exam. The comprehension test just gives you one or two lines, and then they ask you, do you know what is going on behind the scenes? Or are you only able to lift and copy? Are you able to infer? So that's the higher order skills which you need to demonstrate during the exams. That's what they are looking for. That's what they're looking for in an exam. So things like evaluation, things like compare and contrast, things like monitoring yourself. You say, okay, so right now I'm at this stage where I'm doing planning. How much time do I have? And now I'm at this stage where I'm writing. Okay, so I need to finish quickly so that I give myself 10 minutes to check. So that kind of monitoring, that kind of being aware of your own mental state and looking at your watch to monitor the time. And I tell you, I bet 90% of you, 90% of the students here don't wear watches, that you don't even have a watch because you're used to referring to your phone, right? You're used to looking at the phone. And then I also have students who tell me, oh, no need to have a watch because there's a there's a clock in the exam hall. But what you want to do is you want to have a watch so they can quickly glance. Your eye does not need to refocus. Your paper is here, you're writing, you quickly glance at the time and then you go back to your writing rather than looking up and say, where is the, and then coming back down again. No, you want to maintain that state of concentration. Once you're in the flow, once you're in the zone, you don't want to get out of it. And for some of you, you know what I'm talking about when I say that once you're in the zone, when you start to write essays, you write one essay and a second essay, and then you find that, hey, I can do that for 1.5 hours non-stop. But some of you haven't developed that kind of stamina yet. And that's why the frequent practice that we give to you at Mind Stretcher is pretty important. Okay, so like I said, so listening and viewing. Okay, so you need to listen and then you need to be able to observe what you see and you need to think actively about it. It's not enough to just passively receive. Okay. The other thing that you need to do is you need to analyze what's the implied meaning, what is being hinted at, what is it's there, but it's not stated explicitly. Why? Because this is how adults communicate. This is how we communicate as a society. For children, it's very straightforward. You have to tell them explicitly. If you don't tell them explicitly and they they miss it, you can't blame them. You just say, "Oh, I forgot to tell you this rule. You're not supposed to do that." But as an adult, we expect that you are able to read between the lines. You are able to get certain hints based on tone of voice, based on the context, based on who you are relating to. So purpose, audience, context, the difference in status. So these are things which are also being tested at for in the visual text compre, and these are the things which you need to develop. And that's why this O level is almost like a make or break kind of high stakes exam where those who aren't able to function at that level, they just get lower marks. And those who have practiced that skill and developed that ability to do so, and mind you, this is an ability. Remember, I was talking about IQ. So if you have IQ but you are lazy, no ability, because IQ and ability, and then there's a third thing. So there's IQ, there's hard work, being hardworking, and then there's that ability, which that skill which you develop. So without these three things, then you struggle. So the point of having a teacher whom you meet up with 2 hours a week is somebody who can explain to you the things that perhaps you miss in school because you were sick, you were away from school, you had MC, or you had basketball competitions and then they pull you out of class in the middle of the day and you're very happy to go and represent your school, but actually it's not so good for your study. So reconsider the kind of importance that you place on different things. Like it's a very difficult to do so. Yes, Mrs. Shum.
Yes, I totally agree. I was with two CCAs when I was in school, Girl Guides and basketball school team. At that age, when you're in sec 1 to 4, anything out of school is more fun and enticing. But it came to a point, regardless of my AL1 equivalent for the PSLE, right? My additional maths, A maths and E maths, as well as sciences, I was blithely failing by sec 3. So it came to a point, I think there was this question posed, should I stay on in the team or should I salvage my marks? So a lot of things have to be considered when you are in upper secondary. Beyond the fun,
Yeah,
beyond the convenience and being with your friends, socializing and having a free day from school, what are the actual sacrifices that are made without you realizing? Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up.
yeah. And I think that I'm not speaking ill of CCAs. I think that they are wonderful. They give us a chance to socialize with our friends, to relax and to feel less stressed. They give us a chance to learn new skills. Give us a chance to exercise teamwork. They give us a chance to practice leadership. All very wonderful. And that's not a problem. It's after CCA, and then you say, I want to hang out with my friends and drink bubble tea and
Yes,
go to the food
more
court. And that's the
importantly,
extra 1.5 hours that disappears.
yeah. So the thing is, what you've just said, all the perks of CCA, we totally agree. These are things you also write in your situational writing, isn't it? The benefits
Yeah.
of activities. But what happens is that many of them now, with handphones and so many uh extracurricular activities, not just co-curricular activities, but all the socializing and online media platforms that they're involved in. How many of you can be disciplined enough to say, okay, after CCA, after hanging around at the malls for another hour or two, once I get back home, 7 p.m., after shower, after dinner, after whatever you claim you have to finish, settle down to finish your homework and still find time to revise for your upcoming test and the whole picture and the whole big picture of the O levels in 2 years' time if you're in sec 3.
So exactly this is the thing which we are developing in students, this ability to take a step back and to think. That's what we mean by uh, thinking critically, you know, thinking critically, being able to think, not just being caught up with the text, not just being caught up with the CCA, but to take a step back, to detach and to think about your thinking, to think about which of these words actually affect your interpretation. So that's one of the things which you need to develop, and that comes with practice and skill. Okay, so for the parents here, if you want to, if there's one thing that you can do, it's actually to help your child to to do that extra layer of thinking, to point out by asking questions. Don't tell them. Sec 3 and Sec 4, they don't like to be told. Some they're quite sensitive. So, but maybe you can ask them certain questions to help them to think along those lines, and that will actually improve their performance in school. So the third thing which they will need to do is to be able to speak and to present. Right now, what has happened for the O level orals, and of course, beyond that, at junior college, at polytechnics, is that there's a great emphasis on being confident, on being able to speak on the spot. So what we don't want to see students who are just muggers. Oh, they are very good at mugging and they score high marks. But when it comes to a job interview, when it comes to the oral exam, you find that they don't know what to say because, and it's not because they are not smart. If you listen to them talking to their friends, oh, they talk about all kinds of things, but not in proper English. And maybe some of the things which you discuss, the things which your friends talk about, you find that maybe your friends and your classmates are not using logical thinking and you don't want to go along with them just because they talk in a particular way based on personal anecdotes. It does not mean that it is convincing. In order to convince somebody, you need to show cause and effect, compare and contrast. You need to describe the situation, the benefits, the drawbacks. You need to show the timeline. You say, okay, if this happens, then that will happen at a certain time, and then in March, and then in June, and immediately after June for the Sec 4s, in July, August, that will be your oral exam. And after that, it's your school prelim, and then it's the O level. So it's very short. So for the Sec 4, it's a very short year. All the things that are new will be taught to you by May. By May. After that, you won't be taught anything new. And June is all about revision. You'll be called back to school for 2 weeks of revision. And I really hope you stay in Singapore and study and revise. Okay, and for those of you who have no choice, okay, you're going back to your home country for 2 weeks. Maybe you're going back to Vietnam or something. Okay, make sure you have your revision schedule and you study. That June period is really important because you need to revise not just the Sec 4 work, you need to revise the Sec 3 work as well because your O-level curriculum covers all the topics from Sec 3 January to Sec 3 October, November, and also the first 5 months of year 4. So it's important to get started now. You have to get started now. And you need to make the effort to speak in proper English. No brain rot. No thick, no 6, 7. no, no, you need to speak properly with and logically because you need to have that practice so that when it comes to the oral exam, it's not that big a deal because you speak properly all the time. It becomes a matter of habit. If you try to put on a show during the oral exam, oh, that's very stressful and unnatural. And as oral examiners, we can tell because I've been an oral examiner before, and so has Mrs. Shum, and we can tell who are the ones, you know, those students who come in and they just speak and it flows and it's so fluent and just after 10 seconds 15 seconds we know this student is going to get an A, and all we do as oral examiners is just to note down evidence to support our initial impression. Yes, 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 yes. And they get top marks for the oral exams. But if you have not been speaking in proper English for some time, or if you don't have enough practice in school, if your school doesn't give you enough practice, then make sure that when we have all these assignments, in Mind Stretcher, where we give you the chance to speak, where we give, and it's not the full thing, right? We give you all these 5 minute uh, and 1 minute segments where you speak, and it's low stakes, it's within your class. Sometimes you don't even present to the class, sometimes you're just presenting to the person next to you. And so make sure that you make full use of it. And we have these speaking segments every week, and that will really help you to generate the ideas, to present confidently, and then you will improve. Okay. So the other thing, the fourth thing is that you need to be able to write properly. You need to develop your ideas, and it must be in an organized way. It can't be haphazard. I was just marking a situational writing piece. Yeah, it was a situational writing piece by some of my students, Sec 3 this year. And so what happens, I can see that what happens that a student will write something and then they'll pause for a while because they are thinking about what else to write. And then when they write the next sentence, they don't realize that they repeated some of that information earlier and they don't take the time to check and reread. So these are the things which, I mean, there's a method, right? All you need to do is to check, and we'll tell you to check our. In terms of our 2 hours, we give you enough time, and then the teacher will enforce it at the end and say, "Hey, this is time for you to check. You need to stop writing now. You need to spend the last 10 minutes checking." So we do this so that you build in this habit of checking. Because if you just read it as an uninterested observer, as if you're a different person, you just have to read your own essay, you just have to read your own situational writing text once. You will be able to spot so many errors, so many errors. And I know because even for myself, if I'm writing something, I can't just expect that it will be perfect. Nobody creates a perfect text on the first try. Do you understand? Leonardo da Vinci didn't do that. Nobody. Vincent van Gogh didn't do that. So that's why they have the canvas which has been reused. Behind this painting, they scrape it away. Hey, there's a different painting behind because they are adjusting, they are improving. It's not a one shot, one and done, and then okay, that's it. I've handed out to the teacher and then I don't want to deal with it anymore. So that's that thing which you need to get over, that kind of emotional thing where you say, I don't like writing essay. I just hand it to a teacher and the teacher does whatever it is. When the teacher gives it back to me, then I also don't care. I just look at the marks and I say, oh, my marks are no good, and then I just file it away. So that is a very unproductive way of learning because you are here to learn. You're not here to write essays and you're not here to do homework and you're not here to be punished and tortured by school. It's not like that at all. It's actually all about having the opportunity to learn these skills which will benefit you for the rest of your life, right? So most students and parents might think that, hey, grammar and vocabulary, that's it. Grammar and vocabulary, and beyond that, what can be done? Of course you must be good at grammar, and of course you must be good at vocabulary. You have to learn new words. But beyond that, what can we do? Well, one of the things that I want you to think about is in your child's or in your school English class, how many essays do you write per term? How many essays do you write per term? And out of all those essays, how many get detailed, personalized feedback? Can you type into the chat
Yes, do let
to
us
let me know?
know
Yeah,
how many
yeah.
essays actually you do in total for the year, if that is easier to answer.
Yeah,
Because I've asked some of my Sec 3, sometimes they join me in August. And I say, why do you only join me in August? Because, and the girl, one of them said, because I just realized I've done 0 essays and the EOY is coming up. So how many essays have all of you done in the previous year? Not
yeah. Let's say if
counting
you're
the
in Sec
exams.
3, yeah, yeah. Or if you're in Sec 3 right now, how many essays do you write in Sec 2? Or if you're in Sec 4, how many essays did your teacher ask you to write per term? Because we were talking to, or we were listening to one of the students in our master speakers, and she was giving a presentation about, and I'm not going to tell you which school it is. It's some famous school, supposed to be the best school, starting with the letter R or something. Okay, so anyway, so she said one per term. Oh dear. So we don't know if that's an anomaly. We don't know whether that's just because of that particular teacher or whether it's a systemic thing that happens for the entire school. Okay. So if you only have one, if you only write one essay per term, it's not enough. It's not enough. Okay. Let me show you what detailed feedback looks like. Detailed feedback looks like this, not 4 ticks, and then you just say, okay, here's the mark. Because the 4 ticks, tick, 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 and then I give you a mark, 22 upon 30, and then I write down, elaborate more, use better vocab like that. That's useless. That's that's as good as not marking. Then that
Yes,
happens
from
when,
what you're showing also, let's look at this, the Youth Flying Club. I think it's a choice of an activity for the holiday, I remember. So
yeah,
many of your teachers, actually many teachers, they will just put a tick or cross. So at Youth Flying Club, the subject matter of the email or letter, some teachers would just put inappropriate, unsuitable, change it, but they will not tell you what to change it to. So over here, what we
yeah,
do is we're not just picking out for the sake of picking out. It's not massacring the page. Sometimes I mark in green. I resort to marking green because almost every line needs correcting. But it is necessary because many of our students have no idea why they're getting C6 and how our
yeah,
edits, if they actually properly do a draft 2 based on, say, your edits, Stephen, they will get probably 8 out of 10 for content and 15 out of 20 or even 18 out of 20 for language. So this is how
yeah.
we bridge the gap between the extreme scores. So do take note that this is a standard that we wish to help your children and
Yeah.
help them improve visibly. Yeah.
Exactly. So most school teachers, and we know because we used to be school teachers, most school teachers, and there's through no fault of their own, they're managing something like 40 students per class, and they have multiple classes, and then they have to do CCAs, and you know all the things about MOE. Anyway, the reality is your child maybe writes 2 essays per term, and there are some good schools I know they do 4 essays per term. Fantastic. Okay, but some just one per term. And so that's maybe what, nine essays, eight, seven, 6 essays per year. Okay, so what happens at Mind Stretcher? So at Mind Stretcher, your child submits written work weekly, comprehension answers, whether it's essays or situational writing. So comprehension, essay, situational writing, editing. We will draw arrows, tell you, hey, your editing, we explain why. It's very different from just doing the editing passages on your own and looking up the answer key. They don't explain why it's wrong. So all of this marked work, all written with specific comments. Over a year, that's 40 plus pieces of marked work, and that's before the homework booster worksheets and oral consultations. So what happens is that writing improves through cycles of attempt, feedback, and then revision. There's no one shot. You need to try it out, you need to receive the feedback, and then you need to do your corrections. And and this kind of feedback is very important. It's not just underlining and saying SP spelling. Thank you for telling me it's a spelling error, but I still don't know how to spell. Or I draw a line by the side and then I put down GR grammar. Thank you very much, but I still don't know how to correct my grammar. So we actually need to write it out for the student so that the student can say, oh, it's like that. And then they will learn. It's not that the students are stupid, not at all. It's just that if the teacher doesn't teach in a way that enables the student to succeed, then it's so difficult. Imagine if this wasn't English. Imagine if this was Korean. Okay, all this text here is Korean. And and you don't get detailed feedback. The Korean teacher just says GR, Korean grammar, wrong. It's like, what am I going to do? Oh, your Korean word has been written wrongly. Thank you very much. What am I going to do? So you won't know. So you actually need to have a system. You need to have teachers who will help you. Okay, so the more cycles of writing and feedback you have, that the faster the improvement. So this isn't a secret. It's just that it's very difficult for teachers to do for 40 students in a classroom. At my stretcher, we keep our classrooms sizes much smaller, and so we make this possible. Okay. Now, what about this idea that my child is from an IP school, and so she says that it's too easy, or I don't need because I don't need to learn how to write letters. Of course, you need to learn how to write letters because you'll be writing emails in real life. You'll be writing proposals in real life, right? And if you don't know how to write a proposal and all you do is just copy and you say, oh, this is just copied straight out from the thing that's given to you, and you don't know how to develop it. What we do at My Stretcher is we give you the notes, we show you how to develop it. So this is the mind stretchingly expanded version. So this is how you develop the idea. So we're not just telling, we actually show students, we guide students, we provide them with sample text, short models, and say, you see, this is how you can expand this simple idea. And then once you see it, you say, I know how to do it. Because trying to do something from scratch is very difficult. But once you have seen somebody else doing it, once you have seen an example of a text where this is done properly, then you say, I know what to do because this is the way. So since this is the way, I know how to do it, right? So to invent the first iPhone is very difficult. But to copy the iPhone and to create the Huawei equivalent or the Oppo equivalent, it's easy. I just follow. So why is it that secondary students don't do well for English? Why? Well, there are a few reasons. The first is that they wrongly assume that you cannot study for English. Or second reason, they don't read enough. The third reason, they don't put in effort or they don't know how. They put in what they want to put in effort, but they don't know how to build a good foundation. Fourth reason is they are careless and they have poor exam techniques. And again, this you need somebody to tell them to point out because I have I have students who ask me, Mr. Sim, why must put full stops? And that surprises me, and that also tells me something that's very revealing. That tells me that, and this is a secondary two student, right? And that tells me that from sec one all the way to, I don't know, primary one, primary two, primary three, primary four, primary five, primary six, sec one, sec two, none of his teachers insisted that he place a full stop at the end. Oh dear, it's terrible. And of course, the last one is They don't have enough general knowledge. Yes, Mrs. Shum.
I want to add two more. One
Yeah.
of them, handwriting. I have not met anyone with terrible handwriting with an absolute A1 unless they are truly strong and handwriting is just totally something they cannot correct. Usually the lackadaisical attitude comes along with sloppy grammar, sloppy punctuation use, and also sloppy handwriting. So don't scribble. Don't assume everyone can understand what you're writing, because if you happen to get a very strict teacher and examiner, they will see your script as being with too many misspelled words and non-readable content. And one of the main excuses also is because we do have a lot of foreign students with us. One of the common things that is said to me is, I can't help it, I'm from a non-English speaking background. So I think all of us are not good in every subject, but to blame it on circumstance, I think is a no. Okay, for one, I never had my strong foundation in English, but thanks to teachers who spoke very well, I somehow picked up proper grammar along the way, right? Even I come from a Chinese Mandarin speaking or dialect speaking background. So it is not to say I'm from this country or that country, and therefore I am not going to likely get better than a B3 for English. So this is definitely not true. So what we have pointed out for you is all the wrong assumptions. It is whether you put in effort or you don't, whether you take the effort to correct things that have been pointed out to you, to apply good learning techniques and answering techniques, or you blame circumstances for very average or dismal grades.
Yeah, this five plus two, 7 reasons why the students struggle, right? And you know what we have learned after my 16 plus 16 years, and then Mrs. Shum, I'm not going to reveal her age by telling you how many years she's been teaching. Anyway, it comes up to be a lot, many years, okay,
Half a
combined.
century
And
between both of us. Yes.
so, so the problem isn't that English can't be studied. The problem is that most people don't know how to study it. So when a student tells us, I'm just not good at English. So what we do is we ask them, say, did your teacher show you what it means to elaborate? Did your teacher teach you about cause and effect? Did your teacher teach you about compare and contrast? I said, don't know. Just don't know. All we know is PEEL, point, example, elaborate link. Okay, good. PEEL, point, example, elaborate link. Elaborate. So how to elaborate? How to fill up that paragraph and make it convincing? You just elaborate, lor. What does that mean? So if nobody teaches you, then come to my stretcher, we teach you. So we will teach you, okay? We teach you the techniques in our worksheets. Do you understand? So you need to learn how to make the paragraph coherent. You need to practice, identifying the implied meaning in comprehension passages. So many IP students, they don't have much practice because, these basic things like comprehension passages and essay writings, some students, they think that they are above it. All they do is presentations and research and all. But what happens at a junior college? At a junior college, you need to write comprehension, you need to write essays. For the general paper, it's unavoidable. So in many ways, the students in the mainstream schools get much more practice and they develop the skills for these basic things compared to the students in the IP. Okay, so bear that in mind. Okay, so IP doesn't mean that you are fantastic in English. It's not true at all. Not true at all, because the lack of practice can cause you to fumble. So instead of just having a teacher telling you to read more, That's like saying, oh, doctor, I'm not fit. What should I do? Oh, move more, exercise more. But how? What am I supposed to do? So at Mind Stretcher, we have broken down this thing, English language. We break it down into components, things that are trainable, things like grammar, vocabulary, comprehension, inference, comprehension, literary, figurative language. We teach you how to answer certain types of questions. The three details question. We have a method. You just follow this method. That's it. Then you practice and you practice, and then you get it. The essay structure. How to practice so often that you become fluent when speaking for your oral exam. So each of these things has specific techniques. Okay? Specific techniques. So it's something which cannot happen overnight. You cannot wait until uh, June in Sec 4, then you say, okay, I think I take up tuition at my stretcher. So this is something which doesn't happen overnight. It's something which you need to put in effort, and over time that skill develops, right? So we have a plan, and it has been proven to work for so many of our students. This is not a new secondary program. We've done this for so many years already, and it's established, it's proven, to help students of all abilities to stretch themselves, right? So, what do we aim to do at Mind Stretcher? We want to build this strong foundation, and at the same time, we want to stretch their ability. So, just because you're IP student doesn't mean that, hey, you can fold your arms and not contribute. No, the teacher will ask you challenging questions. So, in our comprehension passages, we have special questions just to stretch your ability. In your essay, we give our teachers uh, the 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 leeway to change the expository essay to an argumentative essay to make it more challenging for the student. So these are the things which we do. We build a strong foundation, we stretch them at every level, we enhance your general knowledge, which is why we have our current affairs worksheets, and we want to prepare students for the year 4 examinations. Okay. So what happens is that at the upper secondary, there's a big jump. The jump from lower secondary to upper secondary is not gradual, it's a cliff. So some of you who are in Sec 3 this year, uh, you suddenly find, hey, Sec 3 is the O-level curriculum. So it's a big jump. So at a lower secondary level, a student can score reasonably well by having decent grammar, by writing clearly. But look at what upper secondary demands. You need to have argumentative essays, hybrid text types, figurative language analysis, distinguishing between description and the effect when it comes to summary writing. So these are not just harder versions of lower secondary skills. These are different skills. So I've seen students who go from B3 in Sec 2 to a D7 in Sec 3, not because they got lazier, but because the exam format changes. When in Sec 1, the first few months, like honeymoon, the assignments almost look as if they are PSLE kind of questions. But once they have been streamed, the sector streaming, the hidden streaming, once they have been streamed and say, okay, these are your subject allocations, now it becomes very serious. Suddenly, your teachers are no longer so friendly. They're all very serious, and they say, hey, you need to take this seriously. This is O-level stuff. So the students who maintain their grades are the ones who started building these higher order skills before they are tested. Don't wait until you're tested during the exam. Then, or during the weighted assessment, say, oh, I'm not doing very well. Now I want to go for tuition. That's March. That's too late. Or even worse, it's June in Sec 4. And I've seen students, they come in June, and I try my best to
I've
help
had
them.
students joining only in August.
We try our best, but
Yes,
it's
we
very
do our
difficult.
best, but it's really very
Okay.
hard to undo years of inaction and sometimes even misconception of how answers are to be written and how
Yeah.
essays are to be written. I had a
Yeah.
boy who joined in July 1 year, and then he actually questioned our model. He says, in my school, my chair says introduction is not necessary. I think the whole class nearly flipped when they heard that. And they vehemently said, no, it cannot be. Every essay must have an introduction. And likewise, recount must always come with reflections. Again, that which the teacher said, reflections are optional. So you don't want to be in a frenzy last minute, realizing that you have to unlearn and to relearn the entire syllabus. That would be too huge a risk to take.
Yeah. That's why we start our argumentative writing, our critical analysis in Sec 3, not Sec 4. In fact, we started it all the way from Sec 1
In
onwards.
fact, to benefit everyone, we have gone through all the genres with them since Sec 1, yeah, to cater to
Yeah,
all
that's
kinds of
right. So we
questions.
give a very wide range so that you you have an impression of it. So that if it just pops up during the exam, you don't say, I've never done this before. I don't know what to do, which is what happened to some students, For the first time, they were asked to write a speech or they were asked to write an article and they had no idea. And then it was really tough for them.
The other
So
thing to mention
yeah,
is that we also have many listening comprehension practices to help them gear up for the very fast reading pace during the actual O and N level exams. I think these are the things many students don't pay attention to, but parents do note the listening exam is worth 30 marks, as many marks
yeah,
as an essay or situational writing.
it's low hanging fruit. If you practice, if you come for our lessons, you find that we have so many listening comprehension passages. You listen to it and then you improve. And then we deliberately chose speakers with accents. If you go to some of the online forums, you will see the students complaining after they take the exam, right? As usual, they'll say, "Wow, they spoke like rappers," and then they'll be so upset, and then they'll say that, why does the person speak as if he has marbles in his mouth? How come SEAB sets this kind of exams is so unfair for us?" And I'm thinking, you're a Singaporean. And when you grow up, you need to interact with people from Indonesia, from France, from Germany, from Japan. And you need to be able to understand a wide variety of accents as long as it's in English. And you need to be able to speak clearly so that people from other countries can understand you. Unless you say, no, all I'm going to do is I'm going to work somewhere where I'm not in contact with any of these people, and then that's fine. Then that's what happens. That's the choice, or that's the result of your choices, But we want to help every student to give them this opportunity to develop the best that they can. And so we have these methods, and Ms. Shum here is an expert designer when it comes to listening comprehension, right? So she has done many of these passages I learned from her. And we have listening comprehension passages nearly once a month, or once every 5 weeks or so. And so you just come, you listen, you practice when it comes to the actual listening. And that's why I asked my students last year, I asked, hey, was it very fast? Was it a big deal, the accent? They said, we are used to it. It's nothing, no big deal. And that really made me very happy. So, so by year 4, your child should be refining the exam technique, not learning it for the first time. If you just learn it for the first time, it's too late. Okay. So start early. So we have all these components, all the different components which we have, this is what the mind stretcher term actually looks like in terms of all the components that we train the students in. I want you to notice something, we cover components that many students only encounter during exam preparation. So things like uh, oral, like oral communication examination, the listening compre practice. We know because we ask the students and we know that the schools don't give them much practice in this. How much oral once a year? When you go for the oral exam, that's your oral practice. So that's a gap which we plug. Okay, so come for our lessons, get the opportunity to speak, get the opportunity to listen and to attempt the test, and then it's no longer a mental shock. It's something which you are used to. Okay, and then you build up that ability to listen and to take accurate notes. So this is very important. So things like summary writing. So summary writing, we it's very important. It's 15 marks, and we have a special way of teaching to tell you, and it's the opposite from what the schools say. The schools might say paraphrase more to get more marks. So we tell you no, it's not. It's actually well, come for our lessons, then we'll tell you. Okay, so listening comprehension is often neglected. Okay, and oral communication also often neglected. How often does your child, or how often do you practice presenting under exam conditions? What about current affairs? Current affairs shows up in comprehension passages. It shows up in essay questions. But where do you systematically build up this knowledge? So we extract the current affairs. We extract the comprehension passages that actually deal with current topics, that deal with a wide range of topics, whether it's senior citizens, whether it's Changi Airport Terminal 5, whether it's AI, whether all kinds of things. So a wide range of things in order to build up and to widen your mental horizons. And so you become educated, you build up your general knowledge. You know that your world is more than just that tiny solo where you live in. You understand? So for IP students, you need to know that the junior college general paper is coming. Okay. So your note taking, when you listen accurately, these skills are very important for JC because you're in a lecture theater with 300 other students when you're at the university, and for all the students also, whether you're mainstream or IP, note taking, listening ability is very important. You take down the wrong notes, after that you look at your notes. I don't understand the topic. So very important, isn't it? So your argumentative writing, your summary skills, these are not just for Sec 4. So the IP students might think that they have a free pass, they have no O levels to worry about, but your A levels are coming, and it's the foundation for GP. So we're not just preparing your child for the next exam, we're preparing them for junior college. You understand?
Many of our students also advance to the polytechnics, and I can tell you because I've been helping some of our ex-students get their GPA 4.0 for communications module. Polytechnic English assignments are no easier. It is a combination of presentation mastery, summary writing, a blend of situational writing, as well as essay writing, all in year one. So
Yeah.
don't ever think that I'm just doing enough to get by. You have to think long term. English is a very important skill that will get you very far for all your other subjects.
Yeah. So the difference between the student who studied and a student who's prepared is whether they have actually practiced under realistic conditions. So, all these components we showed you. So every component there it's assessed. They it's timed, it's marked, it's reviewed, it's guided. The teacher is there in class to guide them through it. So it's not as if it's something like, oh, English cannot be studied. When you come for our class, you know that you actually need to study. There are actual skills that have to be practiced, that have to be acquired, that have to be developed. Okay, so by exam day, nothing should feel unfamiliar. You should know how to do all these things. So what can you do if you are a parent? Well, engage them in conversations about Donald Trump wanting to invade Greenland. Engage them in conversations about the rising costs of meals. Engage them in conversations about MRT breakdowns because those are not Greenland, but MRT breakdown, transport, healthcare, senior citizens, recycling. These are all the exam topics. These are all very common exam topics. You understand? Because the examiner will not test students about things which they think are beyond their ken, things which they don't know. So it must be something which is within a reasonable expectation that a 16-year-old, a 15-year-old should know something about. So it's important to engage them in conversations about this. Know your child's weaknesses. And so if you know that they have certain weaknesses and if you think that we can help them, encourage them to come for our workshops, come for our essay writing workshops, come for, and we will have quite a number of master workshops this year. Okay, so encourage them to keep a learning journal, like a record of my favorite mistakes. So it could be my favorite spelling errors, how to spell occurrence, CCUR or CCURR. So my favorite errors, you write the wrong word and then you write the correct word next to it and then you review. Then you learn. Because if you don't review and if you don't see it side by side, this is wrong and this is correct, you can't learn. It just becomes fuzzy. And then when this thing is fuzzy, it causes you stress because it's hanging around. No, you want it to be clear, you know it, then it's no longer hanging around because it's burned in. It becomes part of your permanent memory. Then you don't worry anymore. So by studying, you actually lessen the amount of stress. By not studying, you have this big gray cloud. Oh, there are so many things I don't know. Then it's very stressful. If you study and you handle it one at a time, weekly with our guidance, then it becomes manageable. Okay. So let me leave you with this. English can be mastered systematically. So the upper secondary years are when preparation matters the most before this gap widens. So progress comes from feedback density, how often you get the feedback. And we've built our program around that. So being really ready, it means that you practice according to the exam format, not just present or do group work, that kind of thing. You need to know there's an actual exam, whether it's at the A levels general paper or whether it's at the O levels. There's an actual exam. You can't run away from it, even if people say that, okay, less stress for students by removing mid-year exams and everything. But in the end, you still have to take the exams. So all the students who take it easy versus you who puts in that extra effort, what's going to happen when it comes to the exam? Okay, so this is your opportunity. This is your opportunity to shine. Okay, so that's what we do differently at Mind Stretcher. That's why the families and the students, they have stayed with us from primary four, from primary three, all the way through O levels and through to JC. And that's what I hope your child will experience with us this year. Okay, so upcoming, we will have subject briefings for all subjects. We have edu webinars and course discounts. So if you have any questions, just feel free to ask us. You can type into the chat. Otherwise, thank you for having been with us for this 1 hour. on behalf of Mr. Sherm and myself, and we look forward to helping you to succeed in your studies. Thank you.
Yep. All the best.